Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi, and I'm really excited today, folks, because since I was a kid, there was a show called Knots Landing. Yes, I know kids weren't really supposed to watch that, but it was a deal I made with my mother to let me stay up late at night. And today's guest played a big part in that, especially in season 8, where, in my opinion, that was the turning point for the series. And she's also joined by her sister, who is her biggest fan, her manager, you name it. They are a credit to the business. They're a credit to people. And I'm just very honored to have them both on. So we have, of course, both actresses, Jamie and Tonya Crowe. And Tonya and Jamie, I really appreciate it. It's a real honor for me.
Well, for us too. Thank you so much. We love your enthusiasm about the show. It really means a lot to me to know that, like we had so many amazing fans, the best ever. And you're one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I probably watched the show 2 weeks ago. So, I get into it. I still love it. And that whole cast, I don't think there's a bad actor on that cast. Jamie, I'll start with you. Obviously, you do a lot of behind the scenes with your sister, in her career and things like that. But how did you and Tonya really get that love for acting? Where did it begin for you both?
It definitely began with my sister, with Tonya, because she was watching TV and she pointed to the TV and told our mom and dad that she wanted to do that. That's what she wanted to do. So our father was a principal of a high school, and he had a kid that was an actor there, and the kid was doing a lot of commercials. So their parents gave my parents the agent's name, and sure enough, Tonya and I went to interview. We got some headshots, went to interview, and we both started doing tons of commercials from that. And then and every time the phone rang and we got a commercial, our agent would ring a bell. Do you remember that, Tonya?
Yeah, I do. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's how it started. Tonya was the one who was definitely passionate about it. I was super shy, but that took me out of being shy once I started doing commercials.
Right. And that's usually how it works for so many actors is they start off in commercials. And, I had Don Most on. He told me how he did a bunch of Burger King commercials. Jaleel White, who of course played Steve Urkel, he used to do so many commercials as a kid. He was on so many of them. So really, you have to get your foot in the door somewhere. So commercials sometimes play a big part in you getting even bigger and better things.
And the interesting thing about Hollywood back then, this was like, I don't know, 1975, 74, 75. A SAG union card was not easy to come by. So you needed to actually work as an extra and get vouchers. And then they would accumulate, and then you'd be able to get the actual SAG, Screen Actors Guild card, and then you could be seen for the talking roles or the principal roles. And when I was told that, the first couple times I was on a set, I was a little bit perturbed because I was a background, which I was fine about. But then I saw these other children doing the talking roles, and I would say to my mom, well, when am I going to do the talking roles? And she's like, Tonya, we already explained this. You got to be an extra. Then you got to, get these vouchers, blah, blah, blah. So within a month or two, I was on the set of Charlie's Angels, and they had, it was the episode, The Seance, where Kelly's character gets put under hypnosis, and she she's able to see into her past. We do a flashback of her as a child in an orphanage. And the girl that was hired to do the role got into like a fender bender on the road, and she couldn't make it in time. So they looked at all the different extras, and I think there were 2 or 3 of us that they chose to come, and they said, you, and you, everyone that had the coloring, the dark hair and the blue eyes. So they said, can you read this for us real quick? And so they read all of us, and I was, needless to say, ready to go. So when I read it, they were like, oh my gosh, she's so much better than the girl we hired. They were all excited because I got into it, and I was, it was like a crying role, and I was holding this, this beamish, and it was really a dramatic part. But guess what? I got my SAG card that day. So when we called the agents and we said, she got bumped up to principal on this set this morning, they were like, ah! They didn't just ring bells. They were like screaming at the top of their lungs, because they knew that once, I got out there, that, more than likely I'd start working a lot. And
and she did.
So that was my actual like Hollywood break-in opportunity, came on from Charlie's Angels, playing Jacqueline Smith as a young girl.
And think about this, Tonya and Jamie, I'll ask you this as well. You mentioned your father was a high school principal, and a lot of times parents, they don't want their kids to get in a business like this because they think that, it's pretty much, I don't want to say a pipe dream, but it's not easy to get into, and they want them to go to school. They want them to do activities, play sports, things like that. And your father being a principal and having to run a school all the time, I know like it's important to have support from your parents, but it sounds like to me, both were very supportive of what you wanted to do.
Yes. I mean, I don't think they had any idea what they were getting themselves into when they drove to Sunset Boulevard that afternoon to, interview with Tony Kelman Agency, which was little did they know that the agency's number and name that was given to us by that student at my father's school was one of the 3 top agencies. They were the premier agency. So when they saw that I was self-motivated, I played younger than my age, and I could read really well and had an amazing memory. I mean, I was just like, they took me on the spot. So it was just like, they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. So I think the momentum of everything kind of took them by surprise. And it's funny because you talk about sports. My father introduced us to tennis. And so he really, that probably would have been the sport that I would have pursued. But this was very much, it's competitive. It's not as physical as sports, but, it has its attributes that I think, being on the cheerleading team or being a tennis player or, having a certain sport, they did identify that there is that kind of hardworking, putting in effort. I mean, I had to be on the set sometimes at 5:30 in the morning, kind of like these, gymnasts and athletes that have to be at the pool, or swimmers that have to be at the pool before school starts. So it was actually very interesting, and it was similar to an athletic background of a child, but it just happened to be acting and on a set and in front of millions of people. So that's the little difference. But
and our mom quit her career too.
Huh?
Our mom, because your careers took off so much, our mom had to quit her career as a real estate agent and become our full-time manager.
Exactly. And so my mom was just really successful. I mean, she was the top seller in her office and real estate. So she did sacrifice a lot to make this happen, this dream happen. And, I don't have the words, to say how grateful I am that she actually did do that. And it ended up, being a very beneficial decision for us as a family. But, we didn't, it was a roll of the dice. You never know. And then I remember when I got when I got the interview for Knots Landing, the audition, my mom was very cool and chill about the auditions. And all of a sudden she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? She goes, you're auditioning for Knots Landing. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, because she had gotten into the first season.
Right.
So there weren't that many shows that she was super excited about. But this one, she was like, oh, I hope you get it. I hope you. And so I was just like, okay, So I remember kind of like being a little like, oh, okay, like feeling a little more pressure on that audition, just because of her, like in a good way. Like, oh gosh, I hope I get it too. She seems really excited about this. Right. But yeah, so when I did get it, and they actually, brought us the contracts, and the contract was 7 years. Now they don't do that anymore to children, but back then they allowed children to do 7-year contracts. So I remember my mom explained, I remember being like, having it be explained to me that this contract is 7 years. And I remember having a little bit of a reaction. Like for me, I was 9 years old. I mean, that seemed like an eternity. And I remember looking at her, my eyes probably got this big, and I probably was just a little, like kind of like whatever, affected by it. And then she said to me, oh, Tonya, I mean, no show lasts that long.
Little did she know.
So little do we know what it would end up being. So
and think about this time. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And think about this, Tonya. You probably, of course, you couldn't really appreciate it. I think you were 9 years old when you got cast, maybe 10. So you couldn't really appreciate it at the time. But think about your first big role. You were playing the daughter of Abby Cunningham, and Donna Mills is your on-screen mother. And it doesn't get any better than that because, as you know, Donna was brought into season 2 because they felt like they needed that villain type character to come in. So she was going to be the important part of this series now, and you're getting to play her daughter. So you probably couldn't appreciate it back then, obviously, but as you got to be in adulthood, you had to be like, wow, I got to play Donna Mills' daughter. I mean, it was a pivotal part of the series. So talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, I really had no idea. All I knew is that I had to do my, what was asked of me, which was interesting because the first episode that I ever did, I was asked to do something. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I repeated everything everyone said.
Yeah.
And the writer wrote that in because he actually saw that with divorced children, every once in a while, that was like actually there was some interesting or strange behavior that some kids would do. Because of sort of a reaction to maybe their family, to their families breaking up. And so, they wanted to depict, just like the drug storyline as well in the future, they wanted to depict actual real family scenarios that were occurring, real life idiosyncrasies or like different scenarios that would touch people in a way very personal to them. So their first big storyline that they tackled was divorce. I don't think people realize that, but that was, do you know what I'm saying? Like that was his way of tackling divorce. And in the same way he tackled drug use and addiction happening to anyone, the fact that they made Olivia the drug addict, because that was the last person that you ever would have thought would have had that problem. So they wanted to give it to somebody in the cast and in the storyline that you would never have expected that from for that reason. Right. And I think, that's why it was such a wonderful storyline because there were so many versions of the storyline that a person could relate to, whether it's being the mother, being the aunt, like a family member, whether it's the addict themselves, whether it's, like I said, the person that you least expect it from, the hiding, the secrecy, the betrayal. I mean, it had so much amazing, emotional reality and emotional depth that it really is a storyline that people just consistently talk about being one of their favorites, one of the more memorable ones. And for me to be a part of that storyline, like, it's precious to me, very precious.
Right. And Tonya, you basically grew up on that show. I mean, you were a little kid when that started. And I always, as I watch back these episodes and I'm watching you as a kid, and then as you get to be a high school kid, every time I'm watching, I feel like this is, how a kid acts when they're a kid. They're repeating themselves, having the moments where they cry and they get upset. I think of the great storyline you had with Joan when Abby's getting the kidney. She's giving her kidney to Diana, and you're worried about your mother, and that great moment you have with Joan. I always felt like your character, you played her so well because, yes, it's acting, but I always felt like that's how kids really act. And you knew how to play a kid, if that makes sense. And I really felt like you did a tremendous job with that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, like I would say that my method of acting starts with imagination. So I'm always imagining the scenario. So I put myself in it, and I bring myself like my own thoughts and my own emotions, but I always use imagination. But I thought it was interesting that I was growing up, the fact that it was a long-term character. That imagining how she was kind of like real too. So I think that's what brought maybe that kind of reality to what I was doing, because it really was, like you said, I was on a show that I was growing up on. So I think that those two things merged in such a way that like someone like you can make that comment, and I really appreciate it, because it was scary. Sometimes I was a little bit nervous about being so raw with myself, you know, like, because it was really happening too. So, but I just allowed it to happen, and I trusted that, you know, I just like, you know, at some points in some of those shooting of the scenes, it got a little bit like, you know, like it got a little vulnerable for me, but that was, you know, I was willing to do that. And I think it paid off. Hearing someone like you say what you just said, like, you know, that's really the excitement, I think, of acting. It's a little bit thrilling in that way. And so I rode that wave, and I'm happy to have done it. But like I said, it's funny, people ask me a lot about what happened, you know, why it ended, you know, why it ended and the way it ended the way it did. And I do feel that
I think where her is Donna left, and
Donna left. So that was a big void that really couldn't be filled, you know? And so my character and her character, we were intrinsically, you know, needed, right? And I think that they were going to attempt to do something with my character, maybe a little bit create something else. But the truth is, like you said, I've grown up, you know, it was already, I had started working at 5, even though I did Knots Landing at 9. I was working professionally since I was 5. So for me in my life, I was looking at almost 20 years of my, you know, like almost 15 years of my life out of my 19 being a professional.
You were ready. You were ready.
So there was a little bit of a break that I was kind of ready for. And so they may have sensed that or felt that, you know. And I feel for like someone like Paul Karafotis, who played Harold, because he was just in the prime of his career and he was ready to make Harold and Olivia something. And, you know, he had even shared with me that he had attempted to kind of, you know, get that going. And he just said, you seemed really like checked out. And I was like, yeah, because I was, you know, I was done. I needed a break. So, you know, timing's everything. And this is kind of what happened. But I do think that the writers probably had a little idea of where I was. And, you know, it made it probably harder for them to create something to go into. So you did make that comment to me before we started shooting that, you know, you were really upset about how they handled that, how they just cut me out in that regard. But I think it was, you know, there's a lot behind the scenes that you know, wasn't seen by people. And I think that might be a little look into what may have been happening, that why it seemed a more abrupt than it maybe should have been.
Well, I also think too, Tonya, and you know, you could tell me if you agree or not. I think the writing drastically changed by season 10.
Absolutely.
And it didn't, to me, don't get me wrong, I still watch seasons 11 through 14, but you can watch seasons, in your case, you came on season 2, you can watch seasons 2 through 9, and it was so good. And I think like when they started changing writers and stuff, the show got a little carried away, because it's okay to have outrageous storylines, but you have to have some realism. And I felt like, you know, you obviously didn't probably pay attention to the show to seasons 12 through 14, but there were just some really like crazy storylines that were just, in my opinion, getting to be silly. And I think
I agree.
You know, I believe that that's another reason why Donna, I don't want to speak for her, but I think she probably left because she felt like they were making the character Abby silly now, and she didn't want that either, you know?
Yep. And she, you know, and again, it's so interesting how things happen in her life. She also was ready to be a mother.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just interesting how things, how many, there's always more to a story than what we know. You know, there's many aspects and facets to why things happen.
Right. So, but Jamie, let me ask.
Agreed. I remember when I did leave, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe I was saved.
You needed your childhood, Tonya. You didn't.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I dislike, Tonya. Whenever a longtime character leaves like that, and fans invest in those characters,
Agreed.
you have to give the fans some type of closure.
Yes.
Your
Not just
goodbye-
go off to Florida.
Yeah, your goodbye was meeting Harold at the airport to
Yeah,
give him
I
a
know.
hug.
was
Like, I felt like Tonya, I felt like Olivia and Gary, and even Olivia and Val should have had some type of goodbye. I know she went to Val to see if she should give her marriage a second chance, but I felt like there should have been some type of sentimental goodbye, especially for a character, because you were probably on over 200 episodes easily. You deserved
over 10 years.
Fans,
yes, she deserved more.
You deserved a better send off than the one you got. And the same thing could be said for Constance, the way they kind of send her out of there. You know, she never got that goodbye either. I just thought like that was disappointing for fans who watched and put so much into.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And I think that the fact that that wasn't considered, like you said, from a fan's perspective, you know, yeah, I think that's very insightful of you, and I'm sorry that that happened.
No, and that seems to be the sentiment, because I'm always monitoring these Knots Landing sites on Facebook, like the Knots Landing Chronicles with Diane, and they, I mean, hundreds of fans are always have that sentiment, and we agree completely. Like her character, 10 years on that show, literally growing up on it, it deserved a little more.
Yeah, it definitely did. And Jamie, one thing that was cool is you got to be on an episode of Knots Landing. I think the end of season 2 or maybe beginning of season 3, but you got to be on an episode. So, I mean, the thing I've always noticed, Jamie, this is just my opinion, and I think I'm right when I say this, that you really have been her biggest fan, like her biggest supporter, and you're always on all those Knots Landing sites. And I can just tell that you are so proud of the success she had. And that really makes a fan happy to know that seeing your sister get the accolades that she deserves, and you're as happy as anybody. That means
it makes me a little emotional, because not only is she my sister, she's my everything. She's my everything. Like, she was very much not just my best friend, but we like grew up together. So obviously, but she was more like a mother figure to me as well. So my sister's my everything. And yes, I'm her biggest fan. I was then, I am now. And I do want her to be available again, and because she's got such talent, as we all know, raw talent. She's amazing.
Right.
So I really am just pushing to get her out there and connecting with her fans again, and just using her talent like she should.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Yeah, here's the other thing.
And our relationship has really, it's funny because, you know, a lot of child actors, you know, really do go down strange paths. And
I don't mean to laugh, but yes,
our relationship, you know, and our foundation of who, you know, having that support system like you just described is like what kept me in the world of like appreciating all that it was, but not taking it like this was more important. Like my sisterhood's more important. My friends were more important, you know, like those intimate relationships where it really is about love and support and true caring and true connection and true, like we're on this journey together. Like my sister just had a birthday and I was like, I'm the luckiest sister to be able to be on this journey of life with you. Like it's, you know, like we are, you know,
we're
really,
in this together.
really lucky to have each other.
Yeah.
We are.
And you really are. And that's really like I said, for a fan, it's so refreshing to see, because, you know, you're happiest when you're seeing her fulfill her dreams. And, you know, that's the thing too, Jamie.
And my sister became a nurse, and she's like what she did with her life as far as, you know, and now she's like taking on this whole thing with me and helping, you know, manage me and be that support system. Cause now that's all coming to an end, you know, like she did this amazing, she's retiring and she's still so young, you know, so she's like, what am I going to do? You know,
I'm a grandma too, to 2 boys and the third one's on their way. And I'm just
raising my first daughter of 15.
Oh, congrats.
So like, you know, we did a lot of like, you know, I'm the oldest, but I did a lot of things later, and God knows when I'll retire. but Yeah, so
Yeah, go
it's
ahead.
just it's amazing, like, like how life, like, you just let it happen. Yeah, like it just keeps blossoming, it just keeps blossoming. And I was just wanting to share, like, one of our songs is Bette Midler's Wind Beneath My Wings.
Oh, great song.
That's one
Yeah.
of our songs.
Yeah. And
Because if you
this
listen
is
to it,
what I think fans, Knots Landing fans in general, need to see is that the thing that is very special is, although you're very appreciative of the fame that you got in your life, you're even more appreciative that you have a fan like Jamie who supports you. And look, I mean, she breaks down every time we talk about your career. That's how happy she is for you. And I think that's what fans, they notice it, but sometimes I think they think you are larger than life people, but you're humans just like us. And you want to be happy like we all do. And seeing each other, her being
Yeah.
your manager makes you so happy, and her seeing you successful makes you happy as well. So, I mean, it's really nice to see as fans what the bond you have as sisters.
thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're
She's
happy
my favorite human on the planet. Yeah.
to.
We're only 17 months apart,
Wow. Well, see, yeah, I mean, you've pretty much grown up together.
But you should see us
Tonya,
on the phone before this call. And like, we can also
Did
be like
you-
cats in the
because
bag.
she's last minute Lucy, and I'm
And then we're like,
and I,
yeah.
but it's all real.
So, Tonya, one of the things,
Because we want what's
that-
back. We want everything to be good.
yeah, one of the things when I look at the character of Abby, this is what I see. She was okay with doing anything she could to get what she wanted, whether she didn't care who she blackmailed, who she hurt to do it. But here's why I believe she was a good mother, because other than the drug problem Olivia had, Olivia always did the right thing. When Olivia found out that Abby knew about Val's babies being stolen, Olivia was appalled. She didn't want to live with her anymore. When, Val was going through any tough time, Olivia had compassion for her. She really did. So that's why Abby was a good mother, because Abby taught Olivia and Brian to be everything that Abby wasn't. She didn't want them to be like her. She was, when it came to the business world, she was ruthless. But when it came to being a parent, she knew how to raise her kids the right way. And you see that throughout the series.
Yes. And that's what the show really wanted to, like you said, the show with the original writers was about life. Like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but when David Jacobs brought the show to all the networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, they were all like, who's going to watch a show about a cul-de-sac? People living on a cul-de-sac. But that was David Jacobs' reality. He knew that this idea of a cul-de-sac is very much like, that's how, small town, like people in people's business, people caring, people hurting, people, you know what I mean? Just all the drama, the real life drama of relationships, right? Actual real human relationships in their totality. And that's what he wanted to put broadcast and tell those stories. And they were like, no. And then he's like, okay, well, I have this Dallas show, right? That was all like, about wealth and this and that. So he sold that to CBS. And with his contract, he said, okay, if I give you this show, will you allow me to put anything else I want on network if it does well enough as a creator, writer? And they said, yes, because they wanted that show so bad. Now, obviously that show had its own success and it was fabulous in what it did. But he was determined to put Knots Landing on the air because of what you just described.
That was his
And
baby.
that was his baby
for sure.
And so he was able to then put Knots Landing first season after the first season of Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, because Dallas, I think, was 14 years and Knots Landing was 13 years. So
actually, Knots was 14 years.
Oh,
they did
14.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
344 episodes. Now, season 1 only did 13 episodes, but they did have 14, and your character was on 10 of the 14. Yep.
Amazing. But so that's, that's what that was about. Like he wanted to exactly what you just described, like he wanted, and all the characters, right?
Yeah. And Tonya, I look at it this way too. You just mentioned how he pitched it to ABC, NBC, and CBS. Some of your fans, I don't think the real fans won't forget this, but you also double dipped when you were on Knots Landing, because who could forget your performance as Robin on Who's the Boss? And I always thought about this, like, did it bother the CBS executives that you're on their network every Thursday night and you're going over to ABC on Tuesday nights for a few episodes? I mean, that had to be tricky because that's a competing network as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how I did it, because there were a few episodics and pilots. They were so supportive of my career that in the first, few seasons, they knew that I was a, very, supporting actor. They knew that my character was important. They didn't want to lose me, but they were willing to allow me to do a pilot where I was the star of the show, that if it were to have gotten picked up, they would have allowed me to go. Now, I don't know. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe they did think I was replaceable, but what they shared was, I never thought of it like that.
No.
But I think that I've chosen the other reality, which was that they were so supportive of my career that they wanted me to, potentially, if I had a bigger, better project. But now that we're talking about Knots Landing, how could there have been a bigger, better project, right? No. So everything happened the way it was meant to be. But I did do some pilots. And like you said, I did some episodics on other networks that, I mean, no one ever made a big deal about it. So I don't know how it happened. You're right. They were competing networks. But somehow they allowed me to play in the different sandboxes.
Yeah, and I mean, you were great on Who's the Boss as well, and that was cool because you got to be funny on that show.
Yes, I did.
Anytime Sam had a friend on the show, those friends were hysterical. They were kind of indirectly encouraging her to, do something maybe she shouldn't have done. But I mean, I always enjoyed that, and it was cool for you because people saw you every night on a nighttime soap opera. Now they got to see you in a different light. So I really felt like, I always say this, the 80s was the best time for child actors because they got to there was so much creativity back then.
I agree. I mean, honestly, like that was also when I left in 89, I do feel like what I would have, had I come back, maybe 5 years later, 10 years later, what I was coming back to wasn't what I left.
Yeah.
It started changing. And so it's pretty rough. It's pretty hard to like come from the 80s. And also I'm just happy to be an 80s kid in general. The music,
Generation X, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. It's the best generation ever. But yeah, so, but being, I mean, I obviously my childhood was, a niche part of that. And I was able to it's funny having these interviews, like I never saw it the way I'm seeing it now and really appreciate the magnitude of it.
We had a special
I couldn't really absorb it when I was in it, but now I'm getting it, and it's pretty awesome.
And I think about this, Tonya. Thank God they never recast your character because, as you know, Bobby Jacoby, he played Brian, and eventually he was recast. Brian Austin Green took over, who I loved your rapport with Brian Austin Green. I thought you two did great. Yeah. But Olivia's character, like I said, there were so many great storylines, and you had such great chemistry with so many of the actors. And I think about that great episode that you had with Ted where he's grieving the loss of his brother, Bobby, who, by the way, never died. It was a dream. But, he's grieving the loss of his brother. Olivia's just trying to help, and he shrieks at Olivia. He goes off on her, and you see Olivia just like not screaming back at him, but crying like she's trying to help him. And that's what I loved about your acting more than anything, Tonya, is you, like I said, I know I sound like a broken record, but you were what a kid should be, because you're too young to really, you're trying to understand what he's going through. But at the same time, you're just trying to be supportive, and he's upset and he's taking it out on you. And you always gave that great performance whenever there was a serious scene, which we'll get to with season 8. But I really thought that yourself and Ted, Donna, Joan, Patrick, you had such great chemistry. Paul, with all these actors, you really always nailed it every time you did a scene.
Wow. Thank you.
Yes, you did.
Oh my goodness. I didn't feel, I don't think I felt that successful. You always kind of feel like I could have done different. I could have done more. And I do call myself like a crybaby. You know, I'm like, why was I such a crybaby? But now you're like making it, you know, like you're bringing a different, you know, a different tone to it that I really appreciate, because I am a very emotional person, but it's kind of excavated down deep. So I was able to portray those emotions within my acting more than even my personal life. So it's just interesting that I appreciate your acknowledgement of how it actually affected you and touched you, because I don't think it was as easy for me as for some people to have that kind of deep emotion in front of people, let alone personally. So it was a challenge, and your feedback is that I won.
Yeah, and you really, and Jamie, let me ask you again. You're younger than Tonya, and probably as a young kid, again, you're watching some of these episodes. You understand them, but you're still young. What did you think about her performance in some of these episodes? Because, I mean, like I said, she just knew how to always make, even if it was a small scene, she knew how to make the old saying, less is more. I always felt like she just gave strong performances. But somebody that always got to kind of see this behind the scenes, see the work she put in, how would you characterize how she was as an actress when she was growing up?
Gosh, I just think she had just such a natural, and still does, raw talent. And even like the drug scenes, you know, she never had experimented with drugs. She was like the goody goody. And for her to just come bring up all that, you know, artistic creativity with being an addict was amazing. Unlike me, not that I was on drugs, but I was in boarding school at a young age, where, you know, just to get away from the whole chaos. And Tonya was just very disciplined and did the right thing and was a good girl. So I thought it was unbelievable and incredible. And she won a lot of awards for her performance as a drug.
And we'll get to that too, which she did.
Yeah.
She was a multiple winner. But Jamie, you obviously
Mike
didn't yes.
Mike. Oh, I'm so sorry. So is it possible for me to take a phone call?
Yeah, take a phone call. I'll talk to Jamie for a little bit, and then
okay, just one second. Because I have to do this right now. I'm so sorry.
No worries. I'll talk to Jamie. We'll talk about your nursing career, because
I'll be right back.
Okay.
So Jamie, let me ask you this, because when my mother was in the hospital and she had been sick and stuff, I had a new appreciation for nurses, because let's be honest, you're on your feet all the time. I mean, there is no break. You're moving constantly. You're working 12-hour shifts, sometimes 16-hour shifts. So just talk about that and the amount of work you had to put in just to become a nurse. You know, you had to sacrifice a lot. So just talk about that a little bit, because that's really impressive to me.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Well, it was hard because I was working full time and going to nursing school, and I was a single mom of 2 while I was in nursing school. So that was hard. That was definitely hard, but I was motivated. I wanted to do it. I had been a medical assistant for so many years, and I wanted to get a higher degree and be a nurse. So, and it was all within the same company. I've been with the company for 23 years, and And so they were wonderful, and they allowed me to take some time off, and they were really worked around my schedule to go to nursing school. But yeah, once I graduated nursing school, I was my dad and stepmom and mom, they were all so proud of me, and I did it. I can't believe I did it. And then yeah, I work at a clinic. It's not a hospital. It's more like a minute clinic now. Before I was in family practice, and now I'm in the short-term minute clinic. And I love it. I mean, it's more minor stuff that we deal with, but I always like to treat everyone like a rock star when they come through the door. And because I know they're there because they feel like crap and they're anxious and whatnot. So that's what I'm known for, just always being a bright light and just being upbeat. And some patients ask me, they're like, are you always this happy? Because I smile and laugh a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. And and I get a lot of appreciation for that, I think, from the patients. They're like, I really appreciate that, because not every nurse is so upbeat and positive, And the last thing a patient wants when they go to an appointment, right, is to be greeted by a grumpy nurse. So I take pride in that. But my career is coming to an end. It will have been 25 years. So in 2 years, I'm only part-time now, but in 2 years I get to retire, so I can really dedicate my time to my grandkids and my husband and my sister. That will be my
Right.
plan. And yoga. Hot yoga.
And Jamie, I think about this too. How challenging it had to be when COVID hit, because
Oh,
nobody really knew what to expect, and for nurses and
mhm.
doctors and medical assistant, everybody, it
It
had
was
to
hard.
be
I was
such.
on the front lines.
Yeah,
I was out there. We were swabbing sick patients. I was caring for sick patients because I was in family practice still. And then, yeah, so I was definitely on the front lines. And it was a scary time. And it's never been the same since. Healthcare is completely different now.
right. But
And
yeah,
kind of,
it was. And I credit all of you for doing that, because
thank
you
you.
you know you're trying to protect everybody from getting sick from that, and that was not easy to protect yourselves. So I mean, it really says a lot about the passion and the dedication you have for your patients. So I really applaud you
Thank
for that.
you. Thank you. Appreciate that, Mike. Hi,
And
Tanya.
Hi, I'm back.
Tanya's back. She was just on the phone with Donna, but
Yeah. Oh, that's the only person that like you would interrupt. They've
so
been
Tanya,
talking,
Or my
right?
daughter. I'm sorry. She's getting on a plane, and I
Oh,
always
okay.
do a prayer for her before she
Okay.
takes off, and it has to happen. So,
Well,
Okay.
I totally understand
That's
that, and
beautiful.
I think that's great. And
Mhm.
speaking of daughters, Tanya, let's get to season 8, because here's the thing, Tanya. As somebody who was just supposed to be a supporting character, more, in the background in the beginning seasons, boy, did your character take off, especially in season 7 and season 8. And this storyline, I told you this off the air, and I really believe this to be true. It was the most significant storyline in the history of the series. The only one I would put maybe right next to it is the Val with the babies being stolen storyline. But those two storylines were so pivotal. And I think about this. I love the Olivia character. She's the sweetest character, and I never thought I could get mad at her ever. But that one scene when Olivia is breaking stuff and saying to Abby, "Give me the keys. Give me the key." The way you did that, it's no surprise that you won soap opera, digest awards and things like that, because you should have won an Emmy for that. That was just a tremendous storyline. So talk about that storyline and how, important it was to you in that season.
oh yeah, I remember I was like, wow, this is gonna be intense. Not only because it was so surprising, like it was a part of my, like I had to take Olivia to a whole nother reality, um, where her own, she's always been kind of righteous and, and having integrity and, you know, um, being something that her mom wasn't, right, in her mind. And now all of a sudden she's falling apart. She's having, like struggling with her own demons and her own, coping with life, situation. But also being a teenager is not easy. I mean, I think now, as far as like with all this stuff that the kids are now having to come up against, we never had any of that back then. And it was still difficult just to become a viable adult, right?
Yeah.
So, and you have so many hormones, you have so many, so many situations that you're trying to juggle, and you don't have a full frontal lobe, right? So you're just like, you're struggling with like, less capacity than you will 10 years from that point, right? But you think you're 20, you think that you're as old as the adults around you, right? So here's this storyline where I'm able to really just allow myself to fall apart and be real with all the difficulties of growing up and becoming a young adult, and choosing that as something to cope with and use, and all the pain that created for my family, because I know that's one thing I remember as a character. That's one thing, I don't know, maybe that's why the depiction had what it had, because I remember in my imagination knowing I had that storyline. It was always in the back of my mind that Olivia somehow knew, even though she was falling apart and she was selfishly making these choices and doing these things that she kind of felt she had no control over, there was always something that she knew about it that was hurting people around her, and that killed her. And I played that conflict. Does that make sense? So like, it wasn't enough for me to stop doing what I was doing, but it was always there in my psyche. So I don't know if that's something that, because I remember the last line that she says to me with the "give me the keys," she goes, "Don't you see what you're turning into, or don't you see what you're becoming?" And it was like, in that moment, I remember thinking, oh my God, I want to just break free and say to my mom, yes, you know what I mean? Like, help me. But instead, it was like, I stood my ground in my addiction and in my desire to be independent of her and find my own way. And I said, are you going to give me the keys? You see what I'm saying? Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So but I had all that in that moment. It was like maybe a moment or two. I could have made so many choices in that moment, and I could have surrendered to her and allowed her to help me, but I didn't.
And I really love too, Tonya.
But you understand, but that's that child that says, no, I'm gonna be my own person. And sometimes we make the worst decisions in the world, and thank God we survive them. Some people don't even survive those decisions when they make them as teenagers. God forbid. I mean, I don't mean to be morbid or like, sorry, I didn't mean to go there, but I'm just saying sometimes that need for independence from your parents and being your own person sometimes comes at a cost. I mean, it can be, dramatic and drastic and intense. And Abby had to deal with that, because before then I was like, I didn't have that, that turmoil of teenage years. That's where they put all that in that storyline. Yeah. And maybe I'm kind of connecting to it because I have a 15-year-old right now. And it's a lot.
And it was the first time that we got to see Abby not scheming and wheeling and dealing. She was so concerned about her daughter. She didn't want to leave the house. She was like, you saw her crying. And you remember that one scene she says to Lily May, I bet you never thought you'd feel sorry for me. And I really loved the chemistry that you had with Julie as well, because Julie played a great small part in that drug storyline. She gets in the car accident with her, and then Lily May's trying to, just not judge her, but talk to her about life and stuff like that. So I really was glad that the writers gave your character and Julie's character some scenes together, because I really thought those were important as well.
And she is like, seriously, like her, oh my gosh, her presence on the set, she just brought such history with her as far as just real American acting, with the theater background, and just she was just amazing actress. And we had some, like you said, amazing actors. just to be able to, like be in their presence as far as what they brought, the gravite, the like the integrity, the quality, the quality, like the craftsmanship. That's what I'm looking for. Sorry. The craftsmanship that stayed with me for like having that as a child made a huge difference in my career, in my ability to do what I did. And Natalie Wood is one of those as well. I worked with Natalie Wood early on in my career as well. And she was just such an like icon. I mean, she's just, amazing person and actor, but she also, I just had so many examples of the beautiful version of this industry where the people really are about the craft and the artistry and the creativity and the uniqueness of it. It's a very unique expression, and they all embodied in their own ways the grace and the beauty and the God-given, like it's a beautiful, there are beautiful examples of all the good parts of acting, and the modest aspects of it, and the and the the discipline of it, and all the training that goes into it, and the love of it. They really, Natalie Wood, a Julie Harris, a Donna Mills, even like all the women of the show, Michelle Lee, Joan Van Ark, Bill Devane, Ted Chuckford, the whole cast with Alec Baldwin, and like the ones that came in and out. I can go on and on, but and also just Tony Danza, right, from Who's the Boss?
Oh yeah.
Judith Light, what's her name from Catherine Hammond from Soap, right?
Oh yeah.
I just was exposed to just incredible, and the Phoenixes, River Phoenix. I did Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. And and the Peter Hortons, and
we love the Phoenix family. They lived with us
family. When I did that, I became close with them. And in River, they cast River's family as my brothers and sisters in the episode I did, where it was, now he's Joaquin, but back then he was Leaf Phoenix. And the sister. So, and it's just interesting how I really, when I look back on my career and so many of the people that I was exposed to and got a chance to actually have a real connection with, it's mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing.
It really is. And I think about that final scene, Tonya, where Brian gets beat up, and you see, you and Donna both, the acting was tremendous in that one scene, because Donna gets out of the car. She is angry at Olivia, or Abby gets out of the car. She's angry at Olivia. She gets Brian out of the car. Olivia realizes that Brian's got beat up, and Abby makes Olivia see his face. She says, "Look at his face. Look what you did to him." And you take off, you start running. She chases you, and you take all the drugs out of your stash that you have. You give them to her, and you see the look, there were so many expressions on Donna's face. First was the anger. Then there was the, hurt. Then there's the relief. And then finally the smile, because she knows her daughter has finally come to terms with her problem. And I just thought the scene between both of you in that final 2 minutes was tremendous, and one of the best moments in that show's history. So talk about that a little bit.
Oh, thank you. It's funny. The thing I remember most about that moment was just when I'm on my knees and I just collapse into her, right? Isn't that, there's just there's this, okay, I give up. It's so bad. It's bad enough that I need to change. Like, the pain is so great. I was taught by a spiritual leader by a spiritual teacher, that the pain has to be great enough to change, right? And that's that moment where the pain of my brother being hurt, the pain on, like you said, my mother's face, coming to terms with, like what I spoke about previously, all that background, all that subconscious stuff in my psyche that was always there but never came to the forefront. That was the scenario or the circumstance that just brought it all to the surface so that I could finally surrender to the pain that I did cause. And that's I mean, we've all caused pain to someone in our lives for men, in many different ways. And that is one of the most like universal feelings that we all could have: feeling ashamed, feeling embarrassed, feeling genuinely bad for pain that you've caused. And I was able to portray that emotion on screen through that storyline. And, I'm grateful for that because it's such a universal experience for all of us to have that moment of actual true regret,
It really was. It was such a beautiful scene. And I was so happy that they gave your character, because like I said, in the beginning, she had to be a kid. So she did things kids do. But eventually you got the serious storylines. Of course, there was the Peter storyline and then the storyline with Harold. But we talked about winning awards and stuff. But you're a soap opera award winner 3 times, which once is hard enough. Jamie, let me ask you, how special was it for you and the family that night when she won her first one?
Amazing. Oh my gosh. I remember I had some girlfriends over that night and we were just screaming and crying and so excited. Yes.
Yeah. And Tonya, I mean, like anything else, you want to be recognized for your work. You want to hope that you're doing a good job and people see it. So when you receive an award like that and you receive it 3 times, years later, like as you've gotten older, you really have to be proud of the career you've had, because guess what? Even if you did nothing after Knots Landing, just that series alone cemented your legacy as an actress that'll never be forgotten. So it had to be so special for you to win 1, never mind 3.
Yeah, it was, I never expected to, have any sort of accolades about it. I just wanted to do my work and do the best I could and have fun, enjoy it, which I did for the most part. And, to have that recognition was like really, really very special. And I was, like taken back by how much it actually did mean to me, as far as like, oh wow, okay, like, because I'm pretty competitive when it comes to certain things, but not with not with acting. So it's just funny to like actually win to like be a winner in with something that I kind of was, the one thing in my life that I wasn't competitive about was, interesting juxtaposition.
It was really special. And Tonya, I'll ask you this because we talked about not giving fans closure. Now, when Donna left the show, that was another thing that bothered me. She left the show. Abby left the show fighting with Olivia. They did not leave on. She did not leave on good terms with her daughter. And I felt like Abby and Olivia should have had a better moment with Abby leaving than the writers allowed. And then the other thing about that, Tonya, is when they came back with the reunion in 1997, yourself, Patrick, Claudia, all came back for that reunion, Brian. And the weird thing was they gave Brian a bit of a storyline, but you 3 just made cameos. And I thought that was disappointing for 3 important characters. Claudia had the big season where she's on the run with Chip. And then you've got Patrick, who had the seasons where, him and Eric are fighting over his wife and things like that. And I just thought it was so disappointing that 3 important child actors from that show, we got to see them for a grand total of 2 minutes. I thought that was wrong on the writer's part. Just talk about those 2 things, Donna leaving and then that.
Yeah, I mean, Donna leaving for sure. It was I think you hit the nail on the head as far as the writing. I think that a lot of the things that you just brought up were based on the writers not having their own history with these characters. And that
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world, even though I think that there was some producers that were still there. I mean, I can't remember the details, but I'm assuming that, that there were some decisions that were made that didn't have a historical like input. It didn't have the sentimentality that maybe like you said, the fans wanted, because it wasn't there in reality, right?
Right.
So it's kind of this is actually the first time that I'm really thinking about it from your guys' perspective. And I know for me, I was like, whoa, okay. It felt a little awkward. It felt a little strange. It felt like very much like
Recognized. It
incomplete,
was, yeah.
unresolved. But I don't know. Like, we just did, I just did what was written for me, and I did my job like I always do, right? In that regard. But I don't think like I understood the impact on you guys and the fans until this moment. And
Oh yeah, we're pissed.
yeah, it's not that's not cool. But
Yeah. I just thought,
I
in
think
my
being in
opinion,
it, yeah, like I remember having, like definitely feeling like this is it. And even like with the reunion, I mean, with Donna leaving too, like exactly. There was just there were so many things done that that was kind of the vibe happening already. Like things were like that already. Like I think I was a little bit used to it. Because there was floundering, and it wasn't cohesive. There was a lack of cohesiveness. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, unfortunately, that's the one thing they tell you about that business is it's not always kind. And I understand that, but I just felt fans who watched that show, like even when they had the reunion in like 2005 or six, where they went back to the cul-de-sac. I mean, how do you not have any of the children on there? Like it was like they forgot that these children played significant parts in this series. And I mean, yours especially. I mean, she had so many different storylines that really, were an intriguing part of the series. And it really bothered me that that's, for fans, it was disappointing. I'll leave it at that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so many parts of Knots Landing were amazing, right? So unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's just like every other thing, right? Everything in life, it's not it's not perfect.
Right.
Maybe we need another reunion.
Yeah. Or another updated series,
Yeah.
You're at the age right now where you can again be a mother. You could kind of, I would be disappointed if they tried to make your character like Abby, because that was never Olivia. So
Yeah.
there could only be one Abby. But Jamie, let me ask you this. You have been, like you said, doing the nursing part-time right now, and you're also managing Tonya's career. What's that experience been like for you? Because you did flirt with being an actress. Obviously, I think you made the right move, because it's not easy to continue on in this business, but now you're back behind the scenes managing Tonya's career. So just talk about what that's been like and how challenging has that been?
Yeah. It's been crazy. I just got my feet completely wet. Like I'm trying to get her in all the autograph signing shows, and a lot of podcasters have come to me and interested because they see she's out there again. So that's cool. And we also have a independent film in the works too. So we're excited about
Oh,
that. It's going through funding right now. So we're really excited. I'll have a part in that as well.
oh,
But
nice.
yeah, no, I love it. I'm getting organized, and I'm just reaching out, and I just want her to be on full display to reconnect with her fans and just shine like the bright diamond she is. And I did do a lot of commercials when I was young.
Yes, a lot.
and
Like
and fun fact,
Kellogg.
I was a Martian in Close Encounters of Third Kind when I was 5. I was like one of the extras, but that was fun. Being on the set with Steven Spielberg and all the other
Yeah.
kids were crying. I wasn't crying, by the way. I was
And I
like,
think you were in an episode of Sid and Nancy, right? If I remember
yes,
correctly. Yes. So I
Sid
mean,
and
you got to,
Nancy
yeah.
and White
So
Dog with Christy McNichol, who I just got to
yeah.
reconnect with at the Hollywood show, which was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I played her a small, but I played her niece in that film, a Samuel Fuller film. Um, yeah, and just my whole existence could have turned out totally different, but because but I'm excited though that I got to move to San Diego when I was 18 and just have the whole beach life. And that was my life. I wanted to get out of Hollywood just
Yeah.
because,
You
towards
can't
the
get her
end,
back to LA. It's very difficult.
it gives me anxiety. But I do it for my sister. I go there and all that stuff. But another fun fact, really quick. Growing Pains, I auditioned for
Yeah.
Carol Seaver. It was between Tracy Gold and I for the part.
Oh, wow.
I had gone back like 3 times. I did table reads, everything. We both shared the same agent at the time, which is her father, Harry Gold. And so, yeah, my life could have completely been on a different trajectory, but I thank God that it went on the one it did
Mhm.
because I had kids young and now I'm a grandma young and I love it here in San Diego. San Diego has my heart, but I am ready to jump back into Hollywood and LA to become just to get my sister back out there and to have her shine.
And Tonya, what made you decide to go back into it after all these years? Did you miss it, or did you really feel like you had more to prove and you could still do a lot more with the talents you have?
I've always missed it. I've never like gone away from it in my heart. I always thought I would return, but then I really did find a whole nother passion in yoga and becoming a teacher and making a difference in people's lives in a different way, in a much more one-on-one, personal way. And but I mean, to me, acting has always been my way. One of the ways I can actually just connect with people. I'm a people person. I love people. Like I'm fascinated by them. I'm always curious about just the idea of just everyone having their own very unique individual experience of life. And so here I am, like even evaluating my own, right? from a different perspective. But I just have always wanted to maybe find a way to get back, but I never really knew how to. And now there's this whole world like of podcasting and just social, the whole social media thing where people just being themselves. Like now we have access to actually like
And you're streaming, not so
and
streaming for the
streaming.
first
Yeah.
time in 35
And then
years.
when it
Yeah.
started streaming again, I was like, oh my gosh,
That's
finally
when
there's
everybody was like, where's Tonya? So
where's Tonya? And I just, and I just wanted to like um, revisit from an adult perspective, like that was my childhood. And I've had a full life and I still have a full life, but it's like revisiting this part of my life as an adult has been like amazing. I'm like, whoa, okay. I do have a very, very interesting history that lots of people are connected to. And I want to like, get to know that, that, that pool of people, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like not everyone's a huge fan of Knots Landing, right? There's people that have never seen a day in their life, right? But those that have, I just love that we shared the 80s together in that way.
Yeah, it's really cool. And what I find so fascinating about the different Knots Landing sites is how much the fans analyze different characters. They forget that these people are actors and they're just playing a part, and they'll be like, they'll say something like, oh, well, I couldn't stand Joshua. Why did he do this? Why didn't he do that? And, they're playing a part, but they really get into it. And I was thinking about this, seeing the bond that you and Jamie have with one another, and you seem like you have fun together and stuff. I think a real neat pilot I would love to see, a little project, is you two playing exaggerated versions of yourselves together on a series. I think that would be so cool. I think it would be so funny, and I think you two would do great with that. And you know what? I think so many fans that were fans of both of yours would love that. I think it's something that'd be really cool.
Wow.
I'm down. You want to do it? Let's do it.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, I just think, and it's really good that you're working again, because nobody's forgotten that series. And now it's finally, like you said, it's on Prime, it's on Plex. I mean, you finally get to see it again. And it's like nothing else. If it's raining out and there's nothing to do and you don't have anything to do, you could just put on any episode of Knots Landing. You could go through any season. When you got 14, you could watch any episode you want. And like I said to you, from seasons like 1 to 10, there wasn't really a bad episode. So, I mean, you're part of that history, Tonya. I mean, you're part of that legacy, because I don't think that show ever lost its Thursday time slot. Like, I think they always won their time slot. So, I mean,
and we went up against Hill Street Blues. We went up against LA Law. You know, and they had their run.
It still holds its own 40 years later.
In that time slot.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to be proud. Like, you're part of an iconic series. And that's something, no matter what, like whenever, you know, you look up your name on anything, it'll always say known as Olivia Cunningham from Knots Landing. I mean, that's got to make you proud, because sometimes, you know, success doesn't always happen, and people understand that, like when it comes to this business. But you made your way into that show, and you played some of the most historic storylines ever. So you got to be proud of that.
Thank you, Mike. Honestly, oh wow. I am. Beautiful. I'm like I said, I think I'm still taking it all in, even right. But I'm so proud. Thank you so much for that. I can't express how much your truth, like how like your depiction of that, like, has affected me. Like, it's really another level of appreciation that I now have. So thank you for that.
She's just realizing how amazing she is.
Or just my life, it's when you're in it, sometimes it's hard to really, of course. You're just doing it,
Yeah. And people forget too, Tonya, that you were a kid then, and that's a lot of sacrifice, because you worked many hours a day. I mean, they did 30 episodes a year. It wasn't like now where shows do 13 a year. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get 20 or 22. That show did 30 to 31 episodes a year. I mean, hour-long shows. I mean, that's all the work that you put into. And I mean, that's why I think it's important for people to see just how hard you worked, because you did sacrifice a lot for that show to be successful.
Oh, thank you.
She did sacrifice a lot too, like just in her childhood. Not having one is huge. So I love you, Tonya. Thank you for all your sacrifices too, because she did for our family as well,
Yeah.
She's always...
So I mean, that alone, like, you just have to be proud, because I mean, you made it happen. I mean, yes, they gave you the writing, they gave you the part, and they gave you the character, but you made that character work. That character stayed on forever. If you look at some of the other child actors on that show, they bounced around a little bit. There were 2 Jasons, there were 2 Bryans. So, I mean, you got to be on that from start until, and I truly believe if Donna doesn't leave, you're probably there till the end. But 10 seasons is remarkable. It really is.
Yeah. Oh. I have no words, but I'm very grateful. It was such a pleasure. And now I look back, it was at the time also, it was really a pleasure. Like, that set, those cast members, the writing, there was just so much goodness for all of us to share in. And the fans enjoying the quality and the, you know, that like product that we put out, we all really did care a lot about, you know, making it the best that we could. And I'm very proud.
Yeah.
And thank you. And James, and there was a lot of sacrifice on my family's end too, by the way.
Right.
There was a lot of times that my mom was on the set with me that she wasn't with Jamie. And, you know, that's, you know, there's, and it's, you know, and it is hard to live in the shadow of somebody, even though, you know, we never wanted that to be a feeling or happening, but it is a reality. And she is a brighter star, as bright, if not brighter star than me. Because she's, I mean, when she enters a room, you don't understand. She is the life of the party. Okay. I don't care if we're going to, I don't care what event it is. It's like, woo, Jamie's here. You know?
I do great eulogies.
Oh my gosh, she does the best eulogies. She does the best mother of the grooms. Okay.
Oh, the speech.
The speeches
My
and the
son just had
mother
a
of the
wedding.
groom she just gave because her son just married his lifelong sweetheart from junior high.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I got to catch the bouquet. I did a full blown like
it's on my
pushed off
Instagram.
my right
You
leg
should
and
see
reached and
I'll
grabbed
take
it
a
right
look.
out of the hands
it's
of
on
a
your
married
Instagram.
woman. Okay, she should have never been there in the first place. But
I know. What was Brianna thinking?
But anyhow, but back to Jamie. So, you know, she, you know, her spirit is and always has been just, I mean, humor. There's no one that makes me laugh harder. We've all,
thank you,
you know, had accidents because of her, because she is just so funny. And and she's so loving, and she just her care and her generosity of spirit, her friends, her loyalty to her friends, let alone her sister. It's just, she's a exceptional human being, and I am lucky to
and
have
Jamie,
her
I think
in my life.
and Jamie, it's great that you have that positivity, because I think sometimes in life there's so many things that go on, and you need that person to kind of always keep people smiling. And it seems like to me, you try to wake up every day with a positive outlook. You don't like dread waking up. You wake up with the attitude that I'm going to make today even better than I made it yesterday. And I think that's really important. And I think that's important for Tonya, because as she starts to, you know, circle back to doing this again, and she's, you know, trying to find different things, it might get a little stressful. And to have you right there, somebody that's always going to be positive, I think that's important for her. So it's really
and be
cool
her advocate, but be like a positive one, not a pushy, rude one. You know, I want to be enhance it, not her experience, not take away from it.
Right. Tonya, let me ask you, what would you say to your Knots Landing fans, people that remember you from Who's the Boss, stuff like that? What would your message be to them? Because there are so many fans out there. Like I said, if you go on the Knots Facebook sites, your character gets brought up at least once a week, which is, you know, amazing. And, you know, talk about the different storylines. What would you say to those fans who have supported you for all these years?
I've missed you as much as you've missed me. I know that I kind of disappeared on everyone. And I'm so happy to be back and in communication, and I look forward to what's to come and ways that we can all, you know, reconnect. And I appreciate your viewership and your loyalty and your love of my character and myself, and I hold that very dear. It means absolutely you know, it's so precious to me, and I hope to care for it and nourish it, and you know, really, like, now I'm in my 50s, right? I'm looking at another aspect of my life, and I know how important it is to appreciate what you have, and I want you to know that I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to find you know, new ways and new connections, and talking about, the past is amazing. Like, we have a history together. That's how I feel. I've always felt that we've done this together, that we were in this together, because we would have never been on the air without the viewership we had. And that loyalty that you guys gave us is everything. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I know that means a lot especially to me, but to all of them as
Thank
well. You. And Jamie, with about 5 months left in the year, what could we expect as 25 comes to a close for yourself and Tonya going forward?
Well, for myself, I have another grandbaby on the way, so it'll be my third one. We're hoping for a girl.
And her husband James are the best grandparents ever.
We have our babies Sterling and Wilder all the time because we didn't have our own kid. Yeah. And just for Tonya and I have all these emails out there. I'm waiting to hear back from people. She did reconnect with Donna. She had like an hour and a half conversation. So they're about to get ready, get together soon. And we're
see what we
going
can
to be doing the
together.
podcast.
I have some interesting ideas for us, for Donna and I. So we'll see.
That'll be great. And it's amazing how she's still working. And I'll tell you what, that woman does not age at all.
Oh my God. She looks amazing.
And we both share in the passion of tennis. She invited me to her clay court to go play live ball. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, I love it.
That we have in common.
That's really great. I'm so glad you reconnected with her, because guess what? When somebody plays your mother like that for all those years, she really is like a second mother. And that's how you got to look at it. So I'm glad you both reconnected. But I want to thank you both for giving me some time today. Again, it was a real honor. And Jamie, just talking to you the few times I have, you've been nothing but polite and respectful the entire time. And I really love your positivity and your energy. And I think that's important in life. And you really set the example of what a person should be. And Tonya, I can't thank you enough, because I'm telling you right now, like, I learned so much from watching you on that show, especially that storyline. So, that storyline made me say, I'm never going to do drugs, because I saw what your character went through.
Right.
You played it so well. And I really do appreciate all the years you gave to me. And I will tell you right now that you are up there with all those cast members as the core of that series, and we'll always remember you as fans. And thank you so much for all the years you've given us as fans. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. This was such a pleasure. Good luck with your podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
And Mike, you're a sweetheart. You're so
amazing.
Sweet.
You're an amazing
we adore
interviewer and an amazing person and man. And I can just feel your heart. And it's just so big and full of love. And thank you for being you.
Thank you again. And thank you for
having us.
And we'll have you both back on when our next project comes. I like to do that.
Yes, we would love that.
Well, there you have it, folks. You just got to know both the Crowe sisters, and they are two amazing people. I mean, they really are the best. And Tonya's years in acting, you saw her in Knots Landing, you saw her in Who's the Boss. But what you saw more than anything else was somebody who gave you her very best day in and day out. And you saw that for 10 years on Knots Landing. You saw that for 2 or 3 years on Who's the Boss. And you see that with everything she does. She's an outstanding actress, and she doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody. When you talk about legacy and unforgettableness or indelible, whatever, you could dust off those words for Tonya. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.
Thank you, Mike.